Not even 2 months have passed since we last discussed the hottest free agents in wrestling, yet the landscape has changed so much since then. AEW have done the impossible and snapped up CM Punk. Not only that, but Malakai Black, Bryan Danielson, Brock Lesnar and Davey Boy Smith Jr. have all been signed by AEW and WWE respectively. On top of this, there has also been a ton of new WWE releases, resulting in a fresh list of free agents. Let's look at the 10 hottest free agents in wrestling today. The former NXT North American champion Bronson Reed was released by WWE earlier this month in a move that shocked many, as it was believed he was set for a main roster call-up. His last match was on July 27th, where he faced Adam Cole in a losing effort on NXT. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, the release was due to Vince McMahon feeling that Reed wouldn't fit in on the main roster. Bronson, who has reverted to his old ring name JONAH Rock, has hinted at appearances in companies like AEW, New Japan Pro-Wrestling, Ring of Honor and Impact Wrestling on social media. He also called out AEW TNT champion Miro just a week after his release in a not so cryptic tweet. If he does join AEW, the match would be a battle of the Goliaths, with the possibility of adding another title to his resume. The former NWA World Women's Champion ALLYSIN has wrestled for the biggest promotions in the United States. Following her release from NWA last year, she challenged Serena Deeb ironically for the NWA title at last year's Full Gear buy-in show and came up short. Since then, she has appeared in Ring of Honor, reaching the quarterfinals of the tournament to crown their inaugural Women's World Champion, and she is also scheduled to make her NWA return at the upcoming Empower all-female event as part of the NWA Women's World Tag Team Championship tournament. Despite her talents and her experience, she is still technically a free agent, currently working as a freelancer, but she would no doubt be a great addition to any roster in the world. Formerly known as Ruby Riott, Ruby Soho was one of the talents let go from WWE on June 2nd earlier this year. Appearing on the Wrestling Perspective podcast, she revealed that she has chosen to keep the name Ruby going forward, whilst adopting the moniker Ruby Soho from the punk band Rancid's song of the same name. The band's vocalist, Lars Fredriksson, a host of the aforementioned podcast, gave his approval. Similar to AEW wrestlers Jon Moxley and Malakai Black, Ruby has posted a series of videos on her social media introducing her new character nicknamed the Runaway. Her first video showed her miss a train to New York, which many fans have interpreted as a reference to the upcoming AEW Grand Slam event at the Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens. A report from Fightful suggests that Ruby is AEW bound after her non-compete clause ends on the 31st of August. It seems we won't have to wait long to find out whether or not SOHO is all elite. Another wrestler released from WWE on June 2nd was Buddy Murphy, who hadn't been given a solid storyline since his alliance and subsequent feud with Seth Rollins. The feud ended with Murphy pinning the former WWE champion clean in the middle of the ring. However, WWE failed to build his momentum following this, fading him into the distance. After his release, he too posted a video on social media hinting at his future plans. His video has similar elements to the one posted by Malakai Black prior to his AEW debut. Both were set in an asylum and featured the same actors, suggesting that they took place in the same realm, also hinting that Buddy could be joining Black in AEW. However, Impact Wrestling EVP Scott D'Amore has suggested that Murphy, now going by the name of Buddy Matthews, is heading to Impact, but as we know, this wouldn't restrict his appearances in AEW. Much like Ruby, his non-compete clause ends on the 31st of August, allowing him to potentially debut at AEW All Out as friend or foe of Malakai. Ever since her Impact Wrestling contract ended on June 25th, 2020, Tessa Blanchard's future has remained unknown. The daughter of the legendary Tully Blanchard became the first ever female Impact World Champion despite bullying and racism allegations. However, her success was short-lived as she missed multiple Impact tapings before her contract then ended, cutting her reign short at 165 days. Since then, she's only wrestled 2 matches and stated that she's taking a hiatus to allow allow her to focus on her personal life and marriage. According to a recent Fightful report, she has been in talks with NWA in the past, but the negotiations seem to fall apart. Tessa's intimidating persona would make her a standout in any women's division, but the aforementioned allegations may deter major promotions from reaching out. Time heals all wounds, and only time will tell if someone is willing to give Blanchard a chance to prove that her troubles are in the past. Talent-wise, she's the best there is, but the situation is unfortunately a little bit more complicated than that. The UFC Hall of Famer and former WWE Women's Champion Ronda Rousey is yet to have made a pro wrestling return since losing in controversial fashion at WrestleMania 35 in a triple threat in the main event against Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. Since then, Ronda has stated that she felt disappointed with WWE's fanbase's treatment of her and has said that she was not fond of the traveling necessities that WWE requires. A return to the ring in the near future seems unlikely considering the fact that she is pregnant with her first child. However, fans expect her to return one day and challenge Becky Lynch for the one-on-one match that should have been. A jump to AEW would also be quite interesting, as Ronda's legitimacy as a fighter would do wonders for their women's division, adding a much-needed layer of star power. She could just as easily walk away from wrestling altogether, either for a career in Hollywood as an action star or perhaps seek redemption in the MMA world. One of the most shocking WWE releases this year was that of Braun Strowman. The recent Universal Champion was still pushed as a main player, with his last match being for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania Backlash. Since his release, it has been announced that he will appear at Qatar Pro Wrestling Super Slam 3 next year, and according to recent reports, Major League Wrestling has been in contact with Braun's agent, and the Monster Among Men may be making an appearance in the promotion. AEW commentator and talent scout Mark Henry, the man who initially scouted Strowman for WWE, has stated that he wants him in AEW, whilst Braun has also hinted at a career in bare-knuckle boxing, attending a BKFC event, with its promoter teasing a deal on social media. His options seem endless at this point, and he has the global recognition as a legitimate star. His imposing physique and his raw power will allow him to succeed in any wrestling promotion, while he could also pursue a career in combat sport and draw big numbers. With his non-compete clause ending on the 31st of August, we may see where he ends up very soon. Adam Cole found great success in NXT, winning every major title the brand has to offer. However, it is said that his time with WWE is over. His initial contract was set to expire in July, however he signed a short-term extension which allowed him to have one last match with Kyle O'Reilly at NXT TakeOver 36. According to Fightful, his contract ends this Friday on August 27th, a report backed up by PW Insider. WWE are interested in keeping him around and promoting him to the main roster. However, he may be smart to look elsewhere given WWE's usual treatment of NXT call-ups, most recently botching Karrion Kross's Monday Night Raw move. AEW are also said to be interested in his services, a move made even more likely by the fact that Adam's friends are EVPs of the company, and his girlfriend Britt Baker is the current AEW Women's Champion. Unlike other ex-WWE talents on this list, Adam Cole won't be subject to a non-compete clause and will be free to do as he likes from Friday onwards. And quickly, just before we continue, make sure you drop a like on the video as it helps me out a lot, and make sure you subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any upcoming wrestling content as we head hopefully towards 100,000 subscribers. But now let's press play on the video. AJ Lee has not been seen in a wrestling ring since her retirement in 2015. Talk of her in-ring return has reignited following the improbable wrestling return of her husband CM Punk, with many fans calling for Lee to follow his lead. AEW Women's World Champion Britt Baker recently expressed an interest in a match with the star, saying she saw her as a role model. She also hinted at a potential mixed tag team match teaming with her boyfriend Adam Cole, taking on Punk and Lee. AJ has stated that she left wrestling due to neck injuries, more specifically permanent damage to her cervical spine. She also said that she felt trapped in the middle of the heat between Punk and WWE. If AJ is medically cleared for in-ring action, her return would be a much-needed boost to the overall landscape of the AEW women's roster, with AJ seen as one of the true trailblazers of modern women's wrestling. Arguably the most shocking WWE release in recent years, Bray Wyatt's departure from the company signaled that seemingly no one in the locker room is guaranteed job security. Finding main roster on and off success as the leader of the Wyatt family, Bray went through a radical gimmick change, introducing the critically acclaimed character of the Fiend, which quickly captured the imagination of fans. However, questionable creative decisions followed before his eventual release on July 31st of this year. There have been multiple reports regarding his future, with his most likely destination said to be AEW. According to Dave Meltzer, many in the company feel that Wyatt is AEW bound, the same confidence felt when Aleister Black left WWE earlier this year. With his non-compete clause ending on the 29th of October, it's possible that AEW could introduce him on a Halloween-themed show, either with a vignette on the night or perhaps even an appearance 1 week ahead of the Full Gear pay-per-view. Bray's creativity and promo skills will no doubt be given a platform to shine, and all they have to do is let him in. And before you go, make sure you check out my video where I discuss 10 dream matches for CM Punk in AEW.